Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a business puzzle that is just fascinating, one that sits right at the heart of the luxury world. How in the world does a brand become a global behemoth? I mean, selling to millions and millions of people, while still making everyone feel like its products are super rare and exclusive. Of course, we are talking about the one and only Louis Vuitton. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get into the core problem, the paradox itself. Then, we'll check out how a few different brands handle it before we really zero in on Louis Vuitton's kind of genius solution. It's this incredible blend of art, commerce, and culture. And then we'll wrap it all up with the big lessons anyone can learn from their playbook. So let's get right into it, the central conflict. It's a paradox that every single major luxury brand has to wrestle with. How do you get bigger and bigger without losing the very magic that made you special in the first place? And here it is, the question that probably keeps luxury CEOs up at night. The whole idea, the whole value of luxury is built on rarity. It's built on the idea that not everybody can have it. But, a business has to grow, and growth means selling more stuff to more people. You see the problem here, right? These two things are completely at odds. You scale up, you risk becoming common, and common is the absolute death of a luxury brand. Think of it like this. In one corner, you've got exclusivity. That's the secret sauce. It's what creates desire, it justifies the price, it makes people dream. And in the other corner, you have growth. To be a global powerhouse like LVMH, you have to expand, you have to hit those sales targets, you have to be out there. So how on earth do you do both at the same time? To really get what makes Louis Vuitton's strategy so unique, it actually helps to look at how their rivals tackle the exact same problem. So let's check out three iconic brands. And each one has a totally different philosophy on what luxury even is and how you're supposed to sell it. Okay, this table, which is adapted from a study by Shinya Nagasawa, it just lays it all out so clearly. You can really see the different paths they took. Over on one end, you have Hermès. They are the purists, right? They're all in on tradition, super limited production. Then on the other end, you have Coach, who really pioneered this idea of accessible luxury, totally embracing scale. But then look at Louis Vuitton, sitting right there in the middle. It's like they're trying to have it all. Mass production, but still handcrafted. An aggressive, modern expansion strategy. They're just playing a completely different game. And this diagram really maps out the whole battlefield. Hermès, they win on pure, unadulterated customer experience. That bespoke, you can't get it feeling. Coach puts all its chips on marketing and being easy to find. But then there's Louis Vuitton, carving out this incredible space for themselves, blending a high-end experience with a strategy for absolutely massive sales. They've cracked some kind of code that just puts them in a league of their own. So the question is, how'd they do it? Well, this brings us to their masterstroke. Louis Vuitton didn't solve the paradox by just making fewer bags. No, they solved it by creating a whole new kind of rarity. And they used art as their secret weapon. The strategy has a name. It's called artification. It's this deliberate, really clever process of taking a commercial product, in this case a handbag, and elevating it to the status of a cultural artifact. It's about tying your brand so tightly to the art world that all that prestige, all that exclusivity of fine art just kind of rubs off on your stuff. And here's the really brilliant part. Instead of limiting the actual number of bags they make, they create what you could call virtual rarity. How? Well, they release these super coveted limited edition collections that are dripping with art and culture. Sure, the classic monogram bag might be easy enough to get, but that special art collection? That's scarce. That's a status symbol. And that tactic lets them scale their main business without killing the golden goose of exclusivity. And don't for a second think this was some happy accident. As this quote from the big boss at LVMH, Bernard Arnault, shows, this was a hardcore top-down strategy. He saw the connection between art and luxury not as some fluffy marketing thing, but as a core pillar of the entire business model. Okay, so theory is one thing, but what does this artification stuff actually look like out in the real world? Let's dig into the collaboration that put this whole strategy on the map, and honestly, it changed the luxury game forever. Picture this. It's 2003. Louis Vuitton's artistic director is Marc Jacobs, a guy who absolutely loves pop art. He wanders into an exhibition by this Japanese artist, Takashi Murakami. He sees Murakami's stuff, it's vibrant, it's playful, a little bit subversive, and he has this light bulb moment. What if the iconic Louis Vuitton handbag could become a canvas? And just like that, one of the most important partnerships in modern fashion was born. The impact was just immediate. It was an explosion. This collaboration took the traditional, kind of serious LV monogram, this symbol of old world European heritage, and just drenched it in a riot of color. It was fun, it was modern, and it was instantly iconic. Suddenly, the handbag wasn't just a fancy accessory anymore, it was a piece of wearable, contemporary art. But the partnership reached its most audacious peak in 2008. The Museum of Contemporary Art in LA, MoCA, was hosting a huge retrospective of Takashi Murakami's work. And we're not talking a fashion event here, this was a serious, highbrow art world exhibition. And this is where they just blew up the old rules. Right there, inside the museum, as part of the official art exhibit, they built a fully functional Louis Vuitton pop-up shop selling the Murakami collection. I mean, the art community was scandalized. They called it a shameless commercialization of a sacred space, but that was the entire point. By putting those handbags up for sale inside the museum, Louis Vuitton was making a hugely powerful statement. These aren't just bags, these are art objects, and they belong right here next to the very masterpieces that inspired them. So that Murakami collaboration, that was the blueprint. Now let's fast forward and see how Louis Vuitton took that same core idea and evolved it for a brand new generation, for the digital age. You can see the playbook just keeps evolving. They did the artist collab again with Yayoi Kusama, hammering home that connection to the art world. They built out their website to feel just as exclusive as their physical stores. But maybe the most interesting thing they did was to expand the very definition of what counts as art. And this is where the strategy gets really, really clever. They basically broadened the idea of art to include pure cultural currency. That viral World Cup ad with Messi and Ronaldo, that wasn't about soccer. It was about presenting these living legends as if they were priceless works of art. And partnering with Gen Z icons like Zendaya, it's the exact same move. The person becomes the art, and Louis Vuitton becomes the curator of what's culturally cool for a whole new generation. So when you put it all together, what are the big takeaways from Louis Vuitton's masterclass in balancing this impossible tightrope between exclusivity and global scale? So here it is, the LV playbook. It really all comes down to creating meaning. You start with a super strong identity, one that's rooted in your history. Then you create that virtual rarity with these huge, impactful collaborations. You obsessively, and I mean obsessively, control the customer experience from start to finish. And you tell stories that turn your products from just things into cultural artifacts. It's all about that perfect, delicate balance between tradition and what's next. And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. Louis Vuitton's incredible stories suggest that maybe being timeless isn't about standing still and ever changing. Maybe true timelessness comes from mastering the art of evolution, from constantly finding new ways to be relevant, to be desired, and to be a part of the culture, all without ever forgetting who you are at your core.